Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Well, today we're diving into something bold, something daring. We're getting F-U-N-K-Y.
Funky, huh?
Funky jewelry, to be exact. We're taking inspiration from an article by Carol, a jewelry artist who kind of stumbled upon this whole style epiphany. She even calls herself the nice lady on her website.
I love that. The nice lady making funky jewelry. There's something kind of charming about that contrast.
Right. And what's so cool is that she wasn't even trying to make funky jewelry at first. It was a compliment at an art show that made her think, wait, this is my thing?
It's like she was already doing it subconsciously and then someone put a name to it.
Exactly. So her article, it isn't just like a how-to on making jewelry, step one, bend the wire, step two, string the beads. It's more about finding that unique creative voice, which of course begs the question, what is funky style? And how do you even know if you have it?
Well, Carol's pretty upfront about the fact that she doesn't claim to be like the funk master.
Yeah, I think that title's already taken.
Exactly. She jokes that would be James Brown. She even talks about his music as inspiration. But she does offer a starting point, and that's the Urban Dictionary definition of funky. Want to hear it?
Hit me with it.
Okay, so it says, different but cool nice.
Okay, so we're already talking about standing out from the crowd, but not in a way that's just like strange or off-putting.
Yeah.
It has to have that cool factor.
Right, it can't just be weird for the sake of weird. And she throws out a bunch of other words too, just to kind of paint the picture. Trendy, stylish, eccentric, quirky, unconventional.
Okay, stop. My brain is exploding with adjectives, but how do all those translate to jewelry? Are we talking about like the materials you use, the shapes, the colors?
It's all of that, but it goes deeper. Think of it as an attitude, a way of expressing yourself through your creations. Funky jewelry is about bending the rules, taking risks, and creating something that's unexpected. Maybe even a little daring.
I'm picturing those earrings you see sometimes. They're like little wearable sculptures, wild colors, crazy shapes.
Yes, exactly. Or imagine mixing metals and textures in a way that you wouldn't normally see, like rough stones with polished silver or leather with delicate chains. It's about pushing those boundaries.
So not exactly your grandma's pearl necklace.
Unless your grandma's really cool.
Oh.
Yeah, we're talking about moving beyond those traditional pieces, the classic pearl strands, the simple beaded bracelets. Those are great, but they're not what we're talking about here.
They're not funky. Got it.
Yeah.
But you know what else Carol says? She says funky is kind of like, you just know it when you see it.
Right. It's like a feeling and energy.
And she compares it to, get this, the energy of gritty 70s dance music.
Like that raw, instinctual vibe that just makes you want to move.
Got
I
that.
love that analogy.
Me too. So I'm sensing that funky jewelry isn't so much about following a set of rules. It's about tapping into that creative flow, that gut feeling that tells you this is it.
You're getting it. It's about trusting your intuition more than anything. But then the question is, how do you actually get to that point? Like, how does that funky flow take over?
And luckily, Carol kind of gives us a peek into how it happened for her. She talks about how it was a gradual process. She started visiting her dreams for ideas, like literally writing down what she saw when she woke up.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Right. And then she started breaking free from all those traditional rules she had learned about jewelry making. It was like she had to unlearn everything in order to find her own voice.
So it's almost like a process of deconstruction before you can really reconstruct your own style.
That's a great way to put it. But it also makes me wonder, if funky is all about being unique and expressing yourself, isn't there a risk of it just becoming another trend that everyone copies?
That's a really good question, and it gets to the heart of what Carol is trying to say. Funky isn't about replicating a certain look. It's about finding your own unique expression within that realm.
So you could have two artists both making funky jewelry, but their pieces would be totally different because they're coming from different places, influenced by different things.
Exactly. And that's what keeps it fresh and exciting. But here's something I find fascinating. Carol admits that she didn't even recognize her own funky style at first.
Really? It took someone else pointing it out to her.
Yep. Which makes you think, maybe we all have a funky side just waiting to be discovered, but we're too close to it to see it.
Maybe we do. So to all our listeners out there, do you have a funky side hiding somewhere deep down, waiting to come out?
Maybe. And Carol's advice is to really pay attention to what lights you up when you're creating something, like what feels a little different, what's unexpected, or even a little rebellious. Those could be signs of your funky style trying to break free.
So it's less about like forcing it and more about noticing those moments where you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Exactly. Let your intuition be your guide, and don't worry too much about rules or what other people might think. Just let those creative impulses flow.
This reminds me of something I saw a few weeks ago. I went to a craft fair, and there was this artist who was making these incredible necklaces from recycled computer parts.
Oh, wow. Okay, that sounds amazing.
They were so cool. I mean, talk about using unexpected materials, right? But she made it work. They were edgy and unique and just so funky. And it made me realize that maybe funky is also about seeing beauty in places you wouldn't expect.
That's a really great point. It goes back to challenging those ideas we have about what jewelry should be.
Totally. It's like saying, hey, I find beauty in this, and I'm going to express that in my art.
Yes. Own it. Now, going back to Carol's article, she does give us some clues about what funky jewelry is not. She specifically mentions that it's not your typical strand of pearls, a carefully beaded bracelet, or even a bunch of crystals strung on a head pin.
All right, so definitely not grandma's pearls. Unless, like we said, your grandma is the queen of funk.
Right. And it's not about rigidly following those beginner jewelry making patterns either. Those are all perfectly fine starting points, but they tend to represent a more structured, traditional approach.
So funky jewelry is all about breaking away from those conventions. It's more free-flowing, more experimental.
You got it. And the cool thing is, Carol doesn't actually try to give us a strict definition of what funky jewelry is. She leaves it up to each individual to interpret and express their own unique version of funkiness.
I love that. She's basically giving us permission to just play and have fun and see where our creativity takes us.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole concept of funky so powerful. It's not about conforming to a certain aesthetic. It's a mindset, an approach to creativity that encourages you to be yourself, experiment, and break free from the norm.
So what does that mean for someone who's like, okay, I want more funk in my life, whether they're into jewelry making or painting or writing or anything else?
It means trusting your gut, exploring new ideas without judging yourself, and just being open to where your creativity leads you. It's about celebrating all those quirky, unique things that make you well.
I love that. And I think Carol summed it up perfectly in her article when she said, yes, my jewelry is funky. And I'm all right with that. That's like the ultimate declaration of funky self-acceptance.
It really is. It's about embracing those parts of your work that might be a little unconventional, maybe unexpected, and realizing that that's what makes them special.
This deep dive has been so inspiring. I'm ready to unleash my inner funk.
Me too. And remember, funky isn't limited to jewelry. It's a spirit, an energy that can infuse any creative pursuit. So I guess the question for our listeners is, what does funky mean to you, and how can you bring more of that energy into your own creative work?
Those are great questions. We've definitely given everyone a lot to think about today. And that's what makes these deep dives so great. It's not just about learning new stuff. It's about seeing the world in a different way.
Exactly. And with this whole funky thing, it's not like there's a finish line you cross and then you're officially funky. It's an ongoing process.
It's like a journey of self-discovery through creativity.
I like that. A creative journey to funkiness. But seriously, though, it's about staying curious, experimenting, and letting your style evolve organically.
So to our amazing listeners out there, we challenge you to embrace that inner funk, whatever that looks like for you.
Don't be afraid to break a few rules. Try new things. See where your imagination takes you.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
You might just surprise yourself with what you create.
And like Carol said, just be all right with it.
Love it. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and stay funky.